Just conversational.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Chris and Dan Show. Today we have Victor Saglovsky. Did I pronounce that correctly or did I
Close,
slaughter that?
close enough.
Okay. And we're going to be discussing deuterium depletion of water, correct?
Yeah, yes, deuterium depletion in general, actually, yeah.
Okay. And just kind of a synopsis of this. Deuterium is harmful if you drink too much of it, correct?
That's yes and no. I'd say it's harmful. Yeah, it's definitely harmful. And
Okay. Well, then you give the synopsis. So what's the deal with the deuterium in your water?
well, it's in all water on the planet. Okay,
Okay.
it's in the form of HDO, which is, as you know, water is H2O, and then
Hmm.
in a liter of water, which is 20,000 drops, is in a liter. There's 6 drops that are not H2O, they're HDO. So this makes it into all our water, all our food, and in our bodies.
Whoa, wait, HDO? Okay, so people watching right now, they're just assuming, like, here, I've got water, reverse osmosis from my somebody. It was like expensive. Somebody came to do it. We have to get it maintained. I don't know. It tastes really good. Tastes like I'm drinking water I bought from the store. You're telling me that's not H2O?
Well, it can be, right?
Yeah, so if that's a liter there, it's mostly H2O, and then
Okay.
6 drops of it, or roughly about 150 parts per million, is HDO.
And that's true of
Whoa.
all water, or
Everywhere.
okay.
Some places on Earth have less of this deuterium component in their water, and this is how
And
this whole thing got started and how it
and
was discovered.
and some have more, right? That which is heavy water, correct?
So in Earth's water, assuming that we look at the water on Earth as a totality, so that the oceans make up predominantly the water on the planet, and then about 2% of water is potable water that we can drink. So the oceans are 155.76 parts per million, which translates to roughly one out of every 3,300 molecules of H2O is HDO. Now, that's technically called semi-heavy water, and heavy water would be D2O, and that occurs very rarely. One out of every 41 million molecules of water is that. So that's why it's so difficult to make heavy water. So we're yeah, heavy water is very bad for us, but primarily it's disguised as that deuterium is disguised as HDO.
Hmm.
See, I knew
So
it's
Okay.
this
better off drinking coffee.
so we've got a little bit of this in the water. It's in our food, and so that means the human body has somewhere between 1 and 4 grams of deuterium. Doesn't seem like very much, but it's five to
One
eight
to
times
two
more.
grams. So how does the deuterium bind? Like, H2O, we all understand oxygen, and then that has the two hydrogen atoms. So how does HDO bind? Is it the same? It's just like a
Yeah,
triple bound?
it's still technically water, but it's a different type of water. So it's a tighter bond, and the kinetics of it are very different.
Huh.
So, for example, when in 1931 it was discovered that hydrogen had more than one isotope. Right, at first it was thought that an element is an element, and there's no versions of it. But then the amount of neutrons in that element determine if it's an isotope. So deuterium, and then 31 it was discovered uh, by Dr. Urey, who won the Nobel Prize, that that water, or sorry, not water, hydrogen has protium, which is 99.98% of all the hydrogen in the universe, and then it has deuterium and tritium. And we don't talk about tritium because there's just not much of it. But so so when they discovered this, they made heavy water in a lab. In fact, this is what you need to create a this is what started the atomic age, okay? So because you need that heavy water as a neutron moderator in a nuclear reaction. But so what they did was they synthesized a D2O in the lab, and they said, well, is this water? Because it looks like water, it smells like water, it tastes like water, but on the fifth day it kills you. So it's not water, and it's just not compatible
So,
with biology.
so who was the unfortunate person that had to test it to make sure it tasted like water?
Well, I think they used a I think they used a I don't think they used a human. They used a dog.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, but
fair
They
enough.
use
basically
dogs. They use dogs for too many things, man. Beagles are used for makeup, like testing so many makeup
I
products.
know it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
so terrible. I'd say these scientists that develop things that have potentially hurt people. They should test it on themselves. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. I mean, all these Kim
Do your own guinea
Kardashian, all
pig.
these Kylie Jenner, they they use beagles because they have like one of the highest pain thresholds of all dogs to test these makeup products on. It's crazy. And then like every year they have
I've
all
seen the
these rescue
videos.
beagles.
I've seen the videos. It just hurts my heart.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're a dog person. Me and Chris are too. So
I
we're
love all animals, but
so
yeah.
this is super interesting. How come nobody talks about deuterium then?
Well, I am. No, there are. There's actually it's new. It's just, well, it's not new. The research has been going on for 60 plus years, and there's a whole new branch of biochemistry around this called deuteronomics, which
Huh.
endeavors to explain how deuterium is managed by the body. So, what I wanted to add to that was what makes deuterium and protium, the most abundant form of hydrogen that everything uses for energy in the universe, whether it's stars or anything that uses oxygen on the planet, humans being one. The difference between the two is that protium is very simple. It's the only element on the periodic table that doesn't have a neutron. It has a proton and electron. That's why it's so usable, because it has there's a quantum effect that we can get into. But deuterium has a neutron, so it's double the mass of that proton. So this is incompatible with our biology. Everywhere in our biology that's looking for a proton electron pair, it's getting a proton neutron electron, or a deuteron, which is a proton neutron pair. So where that deuteron takes a position that's normally made for or reserved for a protium, you have problems.
Hmm.
Mm,
So this is one of these underlying causes of aging, because nobody's
wow.
who's studying. I'm an armchair gerontologist. I'm really interested. My entire life I've been trying to unravel the causes of aging because I don't like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, who
your
does?
background is crazy. Like, so let me just, because we didn't give your background. So, co-founder and CEO of Lightwater Scientific, which we're gonna get into. He's also Victor also researched and studied the benefits of deuterium depleted water through his theory entitled Endogenous Radiation Damage Theory of Aging. It proposes that our biggest obstacle to longevity is excess deuterium and other damaging isotopes on the planet, and proper mitigation will radically extend our lifespans. Um, Victor started his career as innovator in plant-based culinary art, having co-founded the first organic gourmet raw food restaurant in North America called Raw. He attended Loyola University and the University of Hawaii, where he pursued multidisciplinary education. He has completed apprenticeships and graduate work in chemistry, optical microscopy, and molecular biology. He is the author of many articles and guides in the field of wellness. My favorite, which is the biohacking space, emerging medicine, technology, mysticism, and esoteric wisdom. Outside of the water category, Victor is the author of Gold, Catalyst of Radiant Health, a book about the history and science of the medicinal benefits of gold, and is adept in gold alchemy and the
Hmm.
making of RMEs. So can you make gold like from thin air, Victor?
Yeah, from lead.
There is some evidence of transmutation of gold from copper and silver, but my expertise in that has to do with reducing gold, reducing it to a nano size, basically, and what's known as ORMEs, or orbitally rearranged monatomic elements.
Is
Wow.
this so you can absorb it?
Yeah, it's so that your body can use it, because our bodies only have hydrochloric acid. It's not enough to break down the
Hmm.
metal. So it's basically when gold gets reduced down to that size, it has different properties. So it's no longer has a no no it loses its metallic properties and has a complete other properties. And I found this incredibly fascinating. There's a great history of this in alchemy. That's what they were trying to do, and I wanted to understand why. But gold is quite fascinating. It's right there in the middle of the periodic table, and it has qualities that no other element has. And one of those qualities, in terms of a metal, is that if you put gold in your body doesn't reject it. I mean, you could put if you have a 24 karat gold spike, you can put it through your body, and it just the body goes, oh, it's must be me. It doesn't cause it. It does. It's
Wow.
just it's quite unique. So I really got into the ancient science,
So
ancient alchemy of gold, and I
so you
wrote a little booklet about it.
so you're
I gotta
saying
read
that
it.
that there's no need for an immunosuppressive agent in your body when there's gold, right? It doesn't
Right.
attack.
That's why we
Okay.
use. That's why it's used for implants. That's why it's used for
Mm.
in your dental work. The body doesn't reject it. It doesn't. You know,
Huh. Yeah, I never
try
thought about that. Yeah, that
doing
makes
that with a
sense.
piece. Try sticking yourself with a piece of iron and see what happens.
Yeah, right. Or lead or something.
Yeah, yeah. So gold is unique and it has these catalytic properties. You know, there's no USRDA for gold, but there should be. But it has to be in a different form. So
Hmm.
when it's reduced down to its well, they call it monatomic state, but that's not altogether accurate either. But goes into it's basically gold that's 1 to 2 angstrom in length, which is very small. It's about it's not visible on regular microscope, at least not an optical microscope. So it
Well,
has these incredible catalytic properties in that state, and this is what the alchemists were all into over time. And I encourage you to get the book. It's short. It's a
I
short read,
will.
and there's a lot of good useful information in it. And my interest was in following the path of the immortals, right? When you're young, you read these books, and you hear about people, read about people living, hundreds of years and longer. I'm like, well, what do they do? Is this real or not? So
Methuselah, do you think like that's like an exaggeration, the story from the Bible, or like he lived like 1,000 years or something? Or do you think like back then they understood alchemy and we've somehow forgotten it?
I think a few people in human history have figured it out and have kept it themselves. So
Seriously?
yeah, I think that is yeah. I
hmm.
have enough. There's enough evidence out there
This is
that
not a conspiracy theorist guy. This is a smart dude. Like you must have majored in chemistry or something, molecular biology.
I
Like
didn't. I didn't. I majored in well, I had so many. I actually had 3 universities, so I majored in like everything. Like I finally got a degree in multimedia, but I got enough credits for like 2 degrees or more. So I was just really precocious, really just wanted to just hungry for knowledge. As soon as my exposure to I went to Loyola University and
in LA?
In Rome,
Oh, in Rome.
In Chicago, and then my sophomore year I went to Rome, and that just changed my life. I was like I was among the Jesuits now. Like I got to meet the Pope, I got
Wow.
the best teachers in the world, and they and I found out that that was just the best possible thing that happened to me. I wanted to go there for different reasons, but so it was just like a happy accident. And what these Jesuits instilled in you was they didn't care about what you knew or what you learned. They were primarily interested in teaching you how to learn and how to ask the right questions. So as soon as I had that bit of knowledge, how to ask the right questions, how to use proper reasoning skills and critical thinking, and I was off to the races. You know.
Dude,
So
you're an interesting dude, man. Like people like you don't fall out of the sky. You know, like what were you like as a kid? Like because I mean I majored in molecular cellular biology and now that we're in life sciences, I wish I would have paid more attention in school and I'm actually going back and relearning all that stuff because it's important for biotech. But you've seems like you've been into all like this kind of stuff since a young age.
if how was I as a child? I was like
Yeah.
this in the books. I spent my time if most of my time was spent in the library.
You
You know.
grew up here in the in
Yeah, we emigrated from the Soviet Union when I was 7 years old, and yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, and then when I was old, after I came back from Rome, I moved to the West Coast, lived in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then 23 years old, I moved to Hawaii, and I lived in Hawaii for 12 years, and then I moved to LA, had a whole other career in Hollywood as a stereographer, or stereographer and a technical producer in stereography, which is
What is that? Stereographer.
stereographer is somebody that sets the geometry for 3D movies.
Okay.
Wow. This dude Victor's intro. We gotta have you on again, man. This 1 hour is not gonna be enough to cover
So
all
li
this shit.
So the library, the library was my home, really. And growing up, I was either in front of a book or I was at the library. I just had this insatiable desire to know, to learn. I just question everything. I mean, I'll question a 7-day week. Like why do we have it? Why is it seven, not 10? So I was just very interested I had questions, at that time you had to learn how to
Do you
use the
have
phone.
answers?
I think I have some of the answers now. Yeah.
What some of the biggest answers you found now as an adult?
Well, I got into this deuterium depletion thing because I've been studying the mechanisms of aging. So when I first found out about it, read about it in 2004, it was like, became something that I wanted to pursue. And it took a long time. It took over a decade before I actually got to the point where we created a company around this because I like upstream solutions. I don't want to, I don't, I want to keep walking all the way upstream until I get to the source where the water's coming from, to the spring coming out of the rock. So, so I also made it a mission for myself to find the right teachers. Well, when I was in my 20s and everybody was hanging out with people their own age, and sure enough, I have a lot of friends my own age, my 20s. But I really sought teachers that were older, that had like 50 years on me, and I would just humble myself and start asking questions, start learning from these people that are now gone. They're long gone. And I'm so fortunate because I got so much wisdom from them. And I think I was fortunate because I grew up in a multi-generational family. So I have a healthy respect for my elders. My grandmothers taught me a lot. And so that gave me, and I also saw them getting older, aging, and I'm like, why? Why do people have to die? So I don't we can stop it, but I think now we have the tools. We can actually start slowing it down. We can slow down the aging process and get more useful life out of this body that we have.
So one of the biggest problems with aging is the deuterium in your body, too much of it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So if I to cut to the chase, 'cause I normally like do a 2-hour lecture or or somewhere around there, but
Sure.
I'll just cut to the chase. So we have too much deuterium on our planet now, and it's
Well,
not.
sorry, interruption. So has deuterium become more abundant over time, or has it always been there in the
It's always
quantities it is?
it's always been there, but it's just been rising on our planet. And what the science shows is our physiology is adapted toward a level of deuterium that's 20% lower than what we have now. So that's
Okay.
my whole mission right now is educate people on this. So if you can get your
So so if we reduce the deuterium in our body by 20%, we should live longer. Is that basically what you're telling me?
healthier and longer. I mean, everybody's karma is individual to them, so I don't
Sure.
know.
Sure. Getting hit by a bus isn't going to change much.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You'd be the healthiest looking corpse.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but,
All right.
but yeah, but yes, it will extend your health span. Yeah. So we want that usable life. It's basically as we age, we lose mitochondrial function. So this is a way
Hmm.
to preserve that mitochondrial function.
So deuterium has an effect on that.
Oh, it's yeah, it's a killer.
Okay.
Is
So
it
how do
because
we,
of the bonds? Like, is it like triple bond, or like a
So
very stable bond?
So since you have that background in molecular biology, you're familiar with the electron transport chain and how energy is made in the mitochondria. So at the end of the electron transport chain is the ATP synthase nanomotor. This is the motor generator that spins.
okay, but go on.
So we have these little nanomotors in our about like each mitochondria has got about 320,000 of them. And they're called nanomotors because when you look at them, that's what they look like. They look exactly like a motor generator. And it uses protons to spin it, and the spinning causes the generation of ATP from ADP. We can go deep on this.
Yeah.
But basically what happens is every 5.5 seconds, instead of a proton coming into this motor, you have a deuteron, which is twice the size. So it causes this motor to stutter, and it causes shaking of the motor.
Hmm.
No ATP is produced in that moment. And this is cumulative. This is over time. So This is happening nonstop. As I like to say, it's like if you get up in the morning and you kiss your significant other and they kiss you and everything is fine, and once in a while you get an elbow to the face instead.
Mm, lovely.
So
This is
eventually you're
facts.
like, I'm
This
gonna
is
shut
facts.
this down. I can't do this anymore. I don't know when it's coming. Is it now? You're like, so this is what's happening. And eventually, when these motors break down, well, what does it do? These motors are held by a membrane, right? Because you have to have a gradient that more protons on one side than the other. This is what causes them to rush into the motor because they're trying to equalize the amount of protons on each side. This causes the motor to spin. So, but when you break the membrane, you cause leakage. So when you have leaky membrane, then those motors no longer spin, and then somebody calls the boss and says shut this whole thing down. So that mitochondrion is gone, and then another mitochondria disappears, and eventually the cell shuts down. You go into senescence, apoptosis, death. So this is one of these underlying factors. Now, the other way deuterium damages us is kinetically. So if you look at the dissociation constant of carbon to deuterium versus carbon to hydrogen, a carbon deuterium bond breaks 9 times slower. So it doesn't quantum tunnel the same. So there's a kinetic problem. It's like you're about to race somebody, in a foot race, but all of a sudden you're twice the weight that you were a minute ago. So it doesn't nothing is the same. So kinetically, this is a problem, and this can cause mutation in DNA through distortion. Enzyme molecules, especially chiral enzymes, ones that have a chirality or symmetry, like a mirror symmetry, if you will. So this basically is just slower, right? It's heavier, it's slower. So and unfortunately, oxygen is stupid. It can't distinguish between a deuterium and a protium. And now in our mitochondria in the metabolic water, it's deuterium depleted. It's 60 to 70% lower in deuterium than the water we drink, because we are actively in the Krebs cycle trying to reduce this deuterium, trying to keep it from entering the electron transport chain because it's incompatible with the energy production mechanism of that chain. So there are hydrogen exchanges that happen molecularly that try to limit the amount of deuterium that we get. But like I said, we have just a little too much of it right now on the planet, so it's
Hmm.
caused our lifespans to decrease. At least that's the
So,
at least that's the theory.
so a couple simple questions. One, does the human body require deuterium? In other words, if we were able to completely absolve ourselves of deuterium, would that be harmful or beneficial?
I haven't found any benefit to deuterium. It slows down metabolism. There's some argument that because it's a stronger bond, that it may have some usefulness in.
So can there be some sort of um, I don't know, coalition or correlation between, it's not the right word, but can it cause obesity, deuterium, right? It's slowing down all the functions of the human body, including metabolism. Can it have some relation to obesity?
It could. I mean, obesity has to do with where you get your calories from too, and the
Sure,
proper
sure.
proper thyroid functioning, and
But many people do have a higher metabolism than others. So,
my metabolism is like I was in high school again because my deuterium level is low, and you'll
so
never get
then,
it. You'll never get it all out.
sure.
It's impossible. But I mean, I've got the same waist size I had when I was in high school now again, and
Wow.
that's because of my faster metabolism. I could burn. I
But
can
what are you
even.
doing, Victor? Like, what is it
Right.
like? What's the
What's
supplement? Is this thing
the most
chromium,
of
vanadium?
that was my next question. What's the most efficient way to reduce the deuterium in the body?
So the concept of deuterium depletion is different than other concepts in this biohacking space because it's about removing something out of your body, reducing something in your body versus putting something in. So you just showed me a supplement. That's putting something in, and what I'm talking about is taking something out. And you can take that out by drinking deuterium depleted water. You can reduce deuterium by ketogenic diet, fasting.
Keto. Oh,
Keto,
thank you, man. Okay.
yeah, keto strategy is a deuterium depletion strategy because not
What?
Awesome.
well,
Carbs have deuterium or what?
nature's strategy is to load the carbs and deplete the fats.
Okay.
So fats are much lower in deuterium than carbohydrates,
Hmm.
especially animal fats are much lower. So yes, that's and plus when you look at fats, and if your metabolism is primarily function is primarily working from the energy that you get from fats, you can get more than three times more energy, more ATP from fat than you do from sugar, from glucose. So that's one thing, and then also when you burn fat, you produce deuterium depleted water. So
Hmm.
fasting is good. I think
Fasting. Thank you.
fasting is excellent.
See, Chris, I'm on the right track. I gotta show my wife this video because she put me on to fasting and keto, and I lost like 30 pounds when I did keto in
Yeah, it
like
works.
8 months.
It works. I mean, our physiology is that's how we evolved. You know, we evolved to be we're primarily omnivores, but we evolved to be more keto adapted. It's just an efficiency thing. You want to put the fuel in your body that gives you higher mileage, right?
Yeah, paleo diet, right?
Cleaner. Yeah,
Primarily.
yeah, paleo, and I like to say keto adapted because you should get yourself in a state you're not driven by your hunger, right? You don't get a hypoglycemic response, or you're not the
Mm.
world doesn't end when you have to eat, right? You can just if you can skip a meal, you can skip a day, you can skip two if you have to, and that's how humans evolved because
Hmm.
we didn't have refrigerators.
Yep. Yep.
Victor, you're turning into my new hero. Like, do you have social media and all that? Like Instagram? Please tell me you have Instagram or TikTok or something.
Uh, we have Instagram for the company. I my own Instagram is I have one. I just never use it. Yeah.
Okay, man. Because okay, so can we talk a little bit about
I'm terrible at I'm terrible at self promotion. I'm pretty good at promoting our company, but I'm terrible at self promotion.
well, we'll be happy to have you on as many times as you want,
Oh
because
yeah,
there's
you're
so many topics.
very interesting.
Thank you, guys.
Metformin, what do you think? Like for age defying premises,
Well,
Metformin.
Metformin's a nice Band-Aid, but it's a pharmaceutical. It has its toxicity as well, but it's a nice Band-Aid, and you're trying to stop gluconeogenesis. You can do that other ways. I mean, fasting is the best way. I mean, if you can.
So
So, but metformin it's useful for people that have cancer. It's definitely, but you have to treat it like any other pharmaceutical. You have to there's a risk and a gain.
So intermittent fasting or long-term fasting, which is more beneficial? So I've read that if you can limit your intake of food to 6 hours a day and do that every day, that's the most beneficial way to go. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
It's nice to narrow that feeding window. That's a fact. If you can, my rule is um, everything in moderation, including moderation. So
Okay. So
Including moderation. Everything in
so
moderation,
so don't
including
over
moderation. So be
don't
extreme.
overdo it. No, don't
well,
overdo it.
you don't have to live like a monk. You got to enjoy your life sometimes. But yeah, I've tried the monk life. It's not you lose a lot.
Sure.
So you lose out on a lot of experiences that are part of being human.
To
But
say the
So
least.
yeah, but
so
the shorter feeding window is good. It's important. It's nice. Now, when it comes to fasting, you're doing a number of things, and one of those things is a pattern interrupt. It's mental and physical because so many times we eat or drink something and because of an emotional trigger, and it's not because of our biological need. It's just because, and we don't, it's hard for us to distinguish the two, right? We get a craving for something. I want that. I'll get it. I'll grab it. And there's an emotional component to it. So when you just say no, you start analyzing your own desires and you can act on your own triggers. So it's a
Well,
very much a very healthy interruption of your own pattern. So that's a mental, psychological benefit
also,
of fasting. That's
also that physical stress on the body is supposedly beneficial as well. When you skip eating, the fasting part of it, or you skip eating whatever you're desiring, supposedly I've read supposedly that stress is beneficial as well.
yeah, and a lot of times eating is the stress, and the fasting state is the anti-stress state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because eating is pro-inflammatory and fasting is anti-inflammatory. Mm. But through autophagy, yes, hormesis and autophagy, you have two very important words uh, because this is how our body recycles stuff. If you have, I do dry fasting. That's my thing.
And what's
So
that?
no
Try
water,
it
no water, no food. You're
for
just
how long?
I've done 6 days.
How long? I'm sorry.
I've gone 6 days. I usually
Wow.
do it as long as
Without
I
liquid, without water?
just nothing, just no food, no water, just nothing. There's
Well,
just
I thought,
just nothing.
don't some people die at 7 days without liquid?
No, actually, if you look at the all the clinical data, you'd have to go 14 days. But some people, yeah, some people, that has to do with other things. That has to do with, they have they have a parasitic condition. There's
Okay.
other factors. But I know people that have gone 10 days without food and water. And in fact, under clinical supervision, 14 days is the
Hmm.
max that
Let me
I've
throw in our disclaimer. Chris and Dan show we're not doctors,
Yeah.
and contact your doctor and your attorney before you try any of
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Contact your doctor, your attorney, and your spiritual advisor.
Spiritual advisor. This is most important, especially if you're going to go 7 days.
Yeah. The rule that I found was that if you can still produce saliva, you're fine, right?
Oh, that's
What
probably
a
a good
great
rule.
rule.
No,
What a
that's
great
probably a good
rule.
rule, though. No, I would
Oh no, it
absolutely agree with
really is.
that.
This is
Yeah.
taken from the doctors that have
Mm.
used this in a clinical environment. But I don't advocate everybody needs to go a week without food and water. I just I think that I think that if you look at the world's religions, they have fasting as a component for a very good reason. Even one day is a wonderful reset for people.
Mhm.
Even if you
So,
just skip breakfast, right? You go to bed early, wake up, wait till noon. I mean, you're almost to 24 hours right there.
Yep.
And eventually the whole goal of this is to optimize your own physiology, optimize your body, right? You're not
Yeah.
trying to hurt, this is not to hurt yourself or do some kind of penance or prove something. It's just to improve the way the way your biology works and to optimize it.
The longest I've gone was 90 something hours, but I drink water and I have black coffee, but just no food, like no calories.
Yeah, I've
Um,
gone 12 days without fasting
whew,
on water.
wow.
But there's people that have done, I mean, that's like from the people that I that I studied, I'm like a kindergartner.
Well, what I've noticed is like the first 24 hours is really the toughest.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
once
yeah.
you go to sleep, like you want to go to sleep earlier because I just get anxious. So I just go to bed earlier. And then when I wake up, I don't even think about food anymore. Like, so the next day is actually easier. And then third and fourth, I start getting anxiety again, like on the third day. But that's just me. Everybody's different.
so is this long-term fasting, again, more beneficial than intermittent fasting?
They're both beneficial and they each have their benefit. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve. Like when you're doing this long-term fasting, and again, or not again, I didn't mention this yet, but when you're fasting, it's important how you come out of the fast because you could hurt yourself. That's just the how you come out of a fast is just as important as the fast itself. Because if you just start eating a big meal right out of a fast, you just canceled all the good things.
Damn it,
Benefits?
man. Don't tell me this, Victor. Damn it.
All the benefits are
I'm
gone,
just
huh?
wasting time putting more depletion in my body
Yeah.
or
So
deuterium.
so the fasting is a deuterium depletion strategy too. You know.
Mhm.
So deuterium
So what's the proper way to come out of a fast, a long-term fast?
slowly,
Like
slowly.
like drink a
And
glass of
it's hard
water,
to
and
do. It's
carrot.
hard to do. Yeah, you just ease back into it. The sun doesn't appear at midday in the morning. It's everything in nature wakes up slowly. So you have to get yourself back into the eating
Chris,
world
you must be
slowly.
more in tune with nature. Have you observed the sun, how it rises, Chris?
Sure.
It's, come on, man. Learn from the gods have given us this gift to observe.
Yeah, right. Everything in nature just it's smooth, right? There's nothing harsh in nature. You don't just flip on the lights and go, okay, we're on.
Damn. Well, I wake up, first thing I do, check my email. Second thing I do, get a nitro cold brew, and I'm ready to go, man. Third thing I do is do some TikToks. That nature doesn't do any of that shit.
It just shows you how adaptive we are as humans,
Mm.
right? We're so resilient, so adaptive. That's why we can exist on all continents on the planet. A little hard in Antarctica, but humans are just we're so resilient. We can put up with a lot.
Wow.
So,
We can eat garbage and live a long time. We can have terrible
mhm.
thoughts and survive. We're
It's
just
Yeah.
amazing how much damage we do to our bodies, mainly by eating here in this Western society. I mean, like this fast food shit, like I'm here in Yuma, Arizona. There's like a lot of diabesity here. And man, people are just decades of eating like this, and they don't a lot of them don't get health problems ever, other than they live with cholesterol and they take pills
Old
and whatnot.
age, they're probably not as healthy in their older age, I would assume, right?
if they even make it, but it just shows you it takes a lot. It takes a lot to
Eh,
kill a
eh,
body.
but what I'm saying is, it's not necessarily that they have some sort of complex disease or something. It's just they're not as healthy. There's an inflammatory mechanism in their body when they're eating all this crap, and they don't feel as well as you would if you took better care of yourself, right? They don't have cancer. They may not have diabetes from eating horribly, but they don't feel as healthy as somebody else who's not eating this, right? Who's eating a
Yeah,
little more healthy.
and a lot of it is mind over matter too. I have friends that eat like crap, but their minds are so attuned and they know who they are and they know what they want, that the mind overcomes whatever is happening in the body. It's quite phenomenal. I've seen this with people that have
Hmm.
cancer, and they just willed themselves back to
To
health.
health. Yeah, interesting.
It's so much more than what we eat. It's also how we breathe. That's a big component.
So when you say breathe, what do you mean? Like if you're in Lake Tahoe,
Look at all
the
these
air is
mouth. Look at
cleaner.
all these. Look at all these mouth breathers out there, right? I mean, we're not. Our natural state isn't breathing through the mouth. That really tanks us really fast. And you could have a guy or male or female, anybody that does everything right. They got great diet. They've got they meditate with their crystals, everything, but they're breathing through their mouth. And that
Why is
cancels
that?
out stuff
Why is
out.
that harmful? Why is breathing through the mouth harmful?
Oh, there's a number of reasons, but primarily when you breathe through your mouth, you can get into what's known as a hypocampnic condition. There's a nitric oxide component to it. You're not getting the right nitric oxide properly, but the hypocampnia is the hidden one, and that means breathing too much out of your CO2. Did you guys know that we don't breathe for oxygen? If we needed to breathe for oxygen, we'd only need one breath a minute. We breathe to exhale CO2.
Hmm.
And if we exhale, and it has that balance, that homeostasis has to be just perfect. You got really tight margin, just like the pH in your blood. If you go outside of that, you're dead. So same thing with CO2 in our bodies. So you get
Yep.
into a hypocampnic condition. That means you breathed out too much of your CO2, and that leads to problems. This is and these this like for example, if you wake up in the morning and you're tired. A lot of people wake up tired, and you shouldn't be. You should wake up in the morning. You just rested. You should get up like you're ready to go. But you
Hmm.
wake up tired and sluggish because you probably were mouth breathing, and you've released more CO2 than you needed to. So breathing is really important, how we breathe, and we should breathe through our nose. So I studied yoga for many years, and these teachings are not new. This is something that's been around for
That's
thousands
something
of
I
years.
gotta get into
Well,
still is
so
yoga.
when you exert yourself, exercise or such, you're breathing through your mouth, generally speaking, because you
You
need.
shouldn't, but you shouldn't. You should always breathe through your nose.
Really? Hmm.
Always, always. You should never
Chris,
get.
Come
You
on,
should
man.
never get to you should never get to a point in your exercise where you have to catch your breath. That harms us.
Hmm.
That's that shortens our lifespan where you just work out so much that you have to go you never want to get there. That creates a lot of friction in our body. It's terrible for us. You should work up slowly to the point where you can I like when I run, I breathe through my nose. When I work out, I breathe through my nose. And if I find myself breathing through my mouth because I'm trying to catch my breath, I slow down. I go, okay, now I've exceeded my capacity and I'm artificially inhaling air through my mouth where I shouldn't be. So the breathing through the nose is so important. Unfortunately, people have all kinds of problems with their sinuses because it's such a big cavity in there. It's very easy to get chronic
Hmm.
infections. So people are forced to breathe through their mouth, and they don't. And our a lot of aging comes from not paying attention, not paying attention to the injuries we have, and we're just living with them, right?
Hmm.
And they never heal properly, and then that affects everything else. So early on in life, people through a lot of times you get congestion because you're not eating the right foods, then you get a sinus infection, et cetera, and then you start breathing through your mouth, and it becomes a habit. And it wasn't addressed early enough. As soon as a vector of information comes at you, like pain. Pain is just a warning, right? It's telling us, hey, this area needs to be addressed. And if we
Hmm.
ignore it, then it's just we're just gonna harm ourselves further. So aging really is about or aging gracefully. It also has to do with making sure that you take care of the injuries that you have. And if you
Okay.
yeah.
So speaking of aging, if I can ask, how old are you, Victor?
I turned 50 this year.
50. Okay. You look good for your age.
Thank you.
And you're going to live to 150 at least?
No, I mean,
So long as karma's on your side, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna be healthy until I die. I know that.
Okay.
I get hit by a bus tomorrow, but
Yeah, exactly. Karma.
I don't know. I mean, I'm doing everything to just be healthy, and in this anti-aging space, and I don't like that word. I prefer to use the word pro-youthing because
Mm.
it's like anti-aging. But the
Yeah,
pro-youthing, I'm interested in just being as
so
being as
true.
youthful as I can for as long as I can. Mm,
We had
That's
somebody else on, maybe it was on my other podcast, Chris, but this guy said, he talked about the difference between like anti-aging, but then cancer. He said, you need that balance because you need cell death. If you don't have cell death, you get higher risk for cancer. But if you get too much cell death, you get things like Alzheimer's. So everything is like balance, those two things like yin and yang.
in the
This
mo- in the
concept,
in half the time that you said that sentence, you produced more red blood cells than the population of Canada. So,
wow.
so yeah, there's a constantly recycling process. We're a copy of a copy of a copy, constantly. It's like we're just a Xerox machine basically. So
Hmm.
so as the closer the copy is to the last copy determines your physical aging. And
Shit.
so we have to mitigate those factors that like low toner and all that stuff. So we have to mitigate these aging factors that that create a situation where a copy of a copy is where a copy is not as identical to to the thing that it's copied, right? Because our DNA is constantly, our cells are constantly copying themselves, and we have massive turnover of cells, massive. We recycle 1,500 gallons of water per day in our body.
Hmm.
1,500 gallons.
Hmm.
We produce
Wait,
more.
wait, wait. 1,500 gallons of water a day we're recycling.
Yeah.
Well, we're not consuming nearly 1,500 gallons of
Oh,
water
because
a
it's
day.
being recycled.
Okay, so we're reusing the water within our body for the
Yeah,
necessities.
about 20% in our 20% of the water in our body gets recycled. The rest we need to replace because we lose it. So, and through fasting, you can increase that efficiency. That's what I was talking about. But We produce more than our body weight in ATP per day. So I
Mhm.
mean, we're dynamic beings. Nothing is static. Everything
Yeah,
is.
something about our DNA like could stretch from here to the moon or something.
Yeah,
It's
we're not.
insane.
Yeah, it's a coil within a coil within a coil, and so I was interested in finding and going to the root of things, because a band-aid is just that. It doesn't actually do anything except it's a cosmetic gloss over. So I'm interested in things like this, like what's causing this to happen? What's causing a DNA to not replicate properly? What's causing mutation?
So
What's
am I,
causing
man.
this 1% decrease every year after we peak in all of our biological functions,
So
mental, cardiovascular,
let
etc.
me ask you like a philosophical question, Victor. We have to have you on many more times, man. Like maybe even
If you're willing.
as early as next week or the week after, because I'm happy to have you as a regular.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay,
Oh,
man,
great,
we
great.
got to do it. Because we want to keep them like around an hour for people's attention span, and we throw something in at the end. But I wanted to ask you more a philosophical question, and then next one I want to talk more about the company, because this question kind of relates to Lightwater Scientific, but take it a step further. So someone like you, biohacking, all this stuff, like just curiosity, would you ever consider doing like a biotech startup? Do you believe in that it's needed? Or
Pharmaceuticals. Do you believe in pharmaceuticals?
no, just like biotech. Is biotech's kind of differentiating now from pharmaceuticals in a way. They're becoming more personalized. Pharmaceuticals like take this pill for the symptom. Biotech's starting to become more preventing things from happening.
Well, it's like
Okay.
that person. It's like that story of a person in the flood, right? How there's a flood and he climbs to the roof, and then they send the boat, and the person says, "Oh well, God will save me," and then they send the helicopter, and he says, "No, no, God will save me," and then he drowns and goes up to God and says, "Yeah, I sent you a boat and a helicopter."
Yeah, dumbass.
So yeah, I think all tools are tools, right?
Hmm.
So everything is useful. How how compatible it is with our biology is another question. I mean, if it wasn't for this stuff, a lot of our loved ones would not live as long, right? So there's a bit of a selfish component. We're better living through chemistry sometimes, and it's unfortunate because we've in a way we've lost our way because we're still getting our footing in a technological, modern, electrified world. We use 600 times more electricity than we produce. This is not sustainable. We have to evolve our we have to evolve in many ways as humans because we've entered this technology age and it's not going away. So I don't believe in transhumanism. I'm not a big fan of that. But I think that there's when it comes to biotech, I'm very interested in what they're doing with biomimicry, where they're looking at nature and going, wow, if we copy that, bioengineer something that copies nature, then it's very exciting, very interesting.
Hmm.
Biomimicry.
We're gonna do what we do, so I'll give you time to think. So what we do to end, because there's this saying in rap, the dumb are mostly intrigued by the drum. Wu-Tang said it. I love poetry in the form of Wu-Tang, Victor. Um, it's like a Trojan horse, we do like a music video reaction, and then we link to the full episode. So it's a way to Trojan horse more people to learn like cool shit from people like you. So we're gonna ask you to think of a song that you don't think Chris or I have heard, and we'll react to it live.
Or just something you like. You like your
Yeah, something you
favorite
like.
music.
Something you like. But I wanted to ask you, like, and we're gonna keep having you on if you would be so kind to join us here and there. Chris and I have this recurring debate on this show, and we're a good. I think we complement each other well. I'm gas, he's break. Um, I'm more. I
Yin and
don't
yang. Yin and
yin and
yang.
yang. I believe we don't like. There are very little truths that we could bank. Like, hey, this is an established truth. This is bang. I think most of our existence is unknown.
Well,
Chris thinks. You explain what you think, Chris.
well, I think Dan's presenting that incorrectly, personally.
All right, you present it.
So yes, I think we know maybe at best 5% of what there is to know, right? In
We don't
universe.
know what we don't
At
know.
best 5%. What I'm saying though is there's truths that are undeniable, right? If I punch you in the face and I say I didn't punch you, well, that's a lie. It's right. It's truthful. You have a broken nose from my punch, right?
Yeah,
So
that's gaslighting. I didn't punch
That's
you.
gas.
but what I'm saying though is there's a truth to that, right?
Yeah.
That's it, right? When things happen, there's truth to it, right? I don't like the expression "my truth." No, there's a truth, right? For things that have occurred, right? In terms of what we know, yes, that's a different story. That's always changing. Science is always changing.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's where I don't know if Dan agrees with what I just stated, but I think he disagrees with that to
a degree. Yeah, I mean, I believe in my truths, but I also believe some people are delusional. So there's a balance. It's a yin and a yang. But whenever we get a science-minded person on here, I like to ask those questions. How much do we actually know?
I don't think we know a whole lot.
Less than 5%, right?
I don't even know what percentile to put.
If you had to guess,
I'd give it 10, maybe.
10%.
Jeez, man. Okay.
Damn,
I think we're.
And
just
that's not all of us.
starting out.
They say, where everyone is born equal and some more equal than others. So.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine all the shit we don't know, though? There was this philosopher who, like in the 1930s, I can't remember his name, but I always quote him. He said, humans are the sex organelles for the robots. So can you imagine the kind of shit they're going to come up with? And I know you're not into transhumanism, neither am I, but it seems like that's where we're headed.
Yeah, it is.
So imagine all the shit we don't know with that.
Yeah, I think there's foundational knowledge, and then there's everything on top of that. And there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, I think that on this planet, there are, if you combine all the knowledge of everybody, then we're getting close to 90%. So I think, but everybody's got pieces, and we speak different languages. We have different concepts, so we may agree in our truths, but we disagree in our language and our semantics. So our syntaxes are different. So I think we're a lot more similar than we give ourselves credit for. I mean, we all come from we have a mitochondrial Eve. We all come from one human, right? So that's scientific fact, at least as far as you can go with a fact. We've traced ourselves back to one common ancestor. So we're all just facets of this diamond, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're here and we're born with a faculty for a lot of things, but we don't get the manual. There was this in the 80s. There was this great show on TV called The Greatest American Hero. You remember that at all?
Oh, I do. I used to watch that show every week.
It was good, right? So
I was like 8.
These aliens come down and they give this guy a super suit, right? The super suit can do everything. He's basically Superman. You put on the super suit and you're just like, you're God on Earth, right? But he loses the manual.
Yeah.
I don't know this show. I gotta check this out.
It was such a great premise. The guy, and and every episode he's trying to learn new things that this suit can do because he doesn't have the manual.
He was the most clumsy superhero ever.
It was so good, but just that one premise, the aliens give him the suit and the manual, then he loses the manual in the desert. It's gone. Now he's stuck. It's just great.
Wow.
The little kid told him how to fly. He's like, why don't you, because he's trying to figure out how to make this thing fly. And the little kid says, why don't you take 3 steps like Superman? And then he does, and he's like, wow, and he hits a brick wall. And it's just, it was a real
Yeah, it was a great show.
We gotta get you on. I'm gonna buy your book on gold. When are you gonna write a book on like pro-youthing? Since it's not anti-aging, but it's
pro-youthing,
right?
It's been in my dude,
come on, man.
It's on the to-do list.
when I can clone myself, or yeah, it's in
I'll be
here.
the first one in line. I'll be the
It's
first one
definitely
in
in
line.
there. It's definitely there. Yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I think I figured out a few things, and it's given me a lot of motivation to explore
Jeez.
further.
We gotta do it. We'll have part 2, but have you thought of a song yet? Like, um,
Oh man, I've been my musical tastes are very wide, uh,
good.
so very
So
wide.
what's something you'd like to listen to right now?
I've been listening to Waylon Jennings,
Oh, I love Waylon Jennings. One song in particular.
Oh, me
uh,
too, I think.
or the Highwaymen's a good song.
All right, let's play that, Dan.
Who is that?
That was a combination of Waylon Jennings, um,
Oh, the
Chris, Chris,
Highwaymen.
Chris Christopherson, Johnny
Oh, okay,
Cash,
okay.
All right,
Wow,
Willie
okay.
something I haven't heard.
and
I'm
Willie
gonna
Nelson.
I'm gonna like this too then, because I like all those
Oh, you
people
don't know
you
this
mentioned.
song? This is one of their best ones.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of stuff. That's what Chris and I discovered on this channel. See, we don't know much, man, and that I'm using myself anecdotally.
So before you start though, Dan,
Yeah,
Victor, should we contact your assistant about setting up the next one? Because I'm thinking once a month, at least for a few times, we would
at
like to have
least,
you on.
and we have to have him on with Dr. Joe, man.
Oh
Dr.
yeah.
Joe Elite is like, dude, you guys would click. Like, I work with this doctor. He's like basically says all the shit you do. He's hates pharmaceuticals. All his patients, man. We do clinical research. We try to get his patients. His patients are so healthy, they actually don't qualify for our studies. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I take too good care of them." Like, yeah, man, I need their A1Cs a little higher, man. What's going on?
So maybe we should try and schedule Dr. Joe and Victor at the same time for the next one, Dan.
Yes, that's gonna be magic, lightning in a bottle, dude. We get that, and we could put that energy into here, like freaking Jafar's gonna pop out, or who's the genie from Aladdin? I forgot his name.
That's the what is his name?
I don't know, but you guys know what I'm talking
Maybe
about.
it's just Genie. I don't know.
Robin
Genie,
Williams. I just
dude.
think Robin Williams.
Somebody's popping out of that shit. There's no way. It might be an AI too.
Three legends of country. I don't. Chris
Four.
Christopherson. Chris Christopherson. I don't know. That's debatable.
Oh, he wrote. You
Oh,
gotta look him
Chris,
up.
fighting words.
He wrote some incredible
That's
songs.
fighting words.
He's been in a number of movies. He was an actor for quite a while, right?
He was an actor. He wrote Me and Bobby McGee.
Yeah.
That,
Okay.
that's a that's a yeah. Janis
Dude,
Joplin did a great number on that one, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Victor, you're dope. You're one of the best guests we've ever had, man. Like,
I would agree.
Come on back now, you hear?
I got a question though. Generally, if you're a big fan of country music, you also like Western movies. So what's your favorite Western movie?
Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Great movie. Great
Yeah.
movie.
But I mean, I love all music. I love dubstep. I love
Well, next
punk
time we'll
rock.
react to Wu-Tang.
I love every. I mean, I just don't like classical so much.
We'll react to
Okay.
Wu-Tang next. Next time you're on, I'm gonna come up with a Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang ain't nothing to fuck with.
You know what? Oh, there you go. You know what's so genius about Wu-Tang? Wu-Tang, there's this whole thing. Chris and I have to react to Crazy Bone saying that the rap industry basically, like, it was financed by the prison. Whatever. We're gonna get into that. But Wu-Tang's so smart. Their lyrics are like, they use so much slang. Only the people intended to hear the message hear it, and it's mostly positive messages, but it sounds like it's negative. So the powers that be let them exist and thrive. That's the genius of Wu-Tang.
It was a yeah. I love it. I do like the Wu-Tang Clan too.
Man, okay, we gotta do that
I
next
love
time.
early indie hip hop is really good. Just there's a lot of great music out there. You know, I was fortunate. I gave myself a musical education when Napster came out. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All those free downloads, and now we have YouTube. So you can if you spend the time, you can give yourself a musical education, and there's so much great. There's just all the American standards, and my God, I mean, there's
Oh
just
yeah,
so
for
much.
free.
I'm a for free, and
Imagine
then
paying $100,000 in debt to go to university and
So
major in music.
that opens up a whole new can of worms. So I know we're probably at the end here, but I'm curious. You've been to 3 different universities, Victor. What do you think about education today? Is it necessary? If you had a child, would you insist they go to college, or do you think it's not as a necessity as it used to be?
it depends on your motivation
Yeah.
and how you learn. And what you're, I think the most important is like I said, you learn how to learn. And once you have that, you can learn anything. I remember, I'll never forget when I was in school in Rome. The teacher, he was an ex-priest, and he said, "Hey, what's the answer to this question?" And I was a pretty good student, memorized it, told him, and he goes, "Oh yeah, well, what makes you think I'm right?"
Mm.
What? I goes, "Yeah. Why you just regurgitated what I told you, and what made you think I'm right?" I go, "Well, you told me that you're wrong." So they really, I think the most important is for your children is to teach them how to learn, how to ask the right questions. And then they will know through self-inquiry and otherwise if they're meant for a academic type of setting for knowledge, or if they're self-motivated. I have friends that never went to high school that are incredibly smart because they read.
Sure, knowledge is so prevalent today. I mean, anything you want to know, you have
We
at
need
your
to stop. We
fingertips
need to
for
stop
free.
raising. We need to stop raising a generation of zombies. But Victor, thank you so much, man. Lightwater Scientific. The link will be underneath this video to the website. Where he's gonna be a regular guest if he's gracious enough to join two morons like myself and Chris on these podcasts.
I love it. That would be great. I like
We
you guys.
promise we'll
Awesome.
make it worth your while because we'll have Dr. Joe Elite and he's not a moron. So then we'll have yin and yang because we'll have two geniuses, two morons. So it's like, the harmony.
I'd rather be lucky than smart. Isn't that what they say?
Oh yeah,
Yes, I like that.
absolutely.
I like that one too. Yeah, we've been lucky though. Okay, so thank you so much, Victor. We appreciate it. Chris, thank you very much. Everybody go check out the
Thank
link
you, Victor.
below. We got to end this recording because my next podcast guest is going to be pissed. They're waiting. Take care, guys.
Thank you,
Bye
gentlemen.
bye.
Have a good